You're a failure.
And that's okay. Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Alicia.
And
we're failures too.
We take a walk back through people's failures and relive the mistakes they made so we all can have more clarity in how to be a better human.
Welcome to the 2020 Perspective, where we make failure fun.
Dan, what's your love language?
Well, Alicia, if you have to ask, it's quality time and buffalo chicken pizza.
Mine is words of affirmation, as you can probably guess. The 5 are words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, and gifts. On this episode, our guest love language is gifts. And boy, does she have gifts for you inside this episode and free takeaways, not only about romantic love and relationships, but self-love too. Lisa Concepcion walks us through her journey of failing in love in her 20s, which inspired her to form her business as a certified professional LoveLife strategist coach and founder of LoveQuestCoaching.com. In this episode, we'll talk about manifesting the life you want and deserve, knowing when to take inspired action, and we'll also laugh a lot. Welcome to the 2020 Perspective, Lisa the Love Coach.
Thank you for having me. How fun.
Yeah. So walk us through your story that you'd like to share with us today.
Wow. So the story that I'd like to share with everyone today is my story about, and a story that I think a lot of people are telling themselves. And that is that they have to have a lot accomplished by the time they're 30. Otherwise, they are disasters, worthless, they're failures, all this negativity. Mm-hmm. Because we have this thing in our head, a lot of women, that by the time they're 30, you must have a husband, you must have a house, you must have actual furniture that you bought yourself, not things that, you've inherited from people like your parents and whatever along the way. But, there's this idea of having it together by the time you're 30. And I find that I was in that mindset, as many people are, in my 20s. And it led to marrying my college boyfriend and creating this whole life that I thought, I call it the Pottery Barn catalog, right? I wanted to live in the Pottery Barn catalog. I wanted to,
I know what you mean.
I felt like that life was a great, perfect life. And then I created it and I was like, wait, this isn't so great. What's so great about this? This is actually a disaster, But there was a lot of it that I did love, however, I think organizing my mind and my life in such a way that had all this pressure about this, mile marker 30th birthday, I have to have these things accomplished, really set me up for a lot of anxiety, a lot of forced decisions, a lot of efforting, a lot of forcing things, a lot of control issues, as opposed to creating a goal, and then just being flexible and fluid with the way by which that goal is attained. I wanted to control the way by which it happened. And I left very little room for faith, very little room for divine guidance. I felt very alone, very anxious, incredibly codependent. And so when I entered that marriage, I thought, again, I feel worthy now. I have ring on my finger, beautiful, handsome husband. We're buying this house. I'm 28 years old. Now I'm 30, moving into my home.
You got it all.
And I have this wonderful career in public relations at the time in New York City. I'm doing well. And then the other goal was, okay, well, what the financial goal is. You have to be making 6 figures by the time you're 32, because then you're a loser. And everything was that. It was, if you don't do this by this age, you're a loser. If you don't do this, what a way to think. So mentality.
Wait, Lisa, let me ask you, where do you think that came from? And I'm asking you because I totally can relate to this. Where do you think it came from for you, this pressure and this this subconscious voice that's telling you what these mile markers are?
Yeah, I think it definitely, and I can speak for myself. I could also speak for many people that I've coached that have the same kind of mind track. And it is rooted in programming that happened as kids. Now, this programming can be a combination of what we saw on TV, what we saw in our own families, perhaps instability, divorce, and also just this common sense of, okay, if I'm going to college, that means I'm graduating college by 22, 23. So clearly I'm not going to get married by then and have babies. I have my college to do. And then you say, okay, so then it's going to take me probably time to finish college and then start a career, get money saved, do that whole thing. So by the time I am 30, I should have this much money and I should be in this kind of relationship. And that's really the age that it should be. It's just this arbitrary,
Prescriptive. It sounds prescriptive.
Yes. And it's that 20-year-old kind of girl in college being like, wait a second, like I got a decade to get educated, to have fun with my friends, to find a job, to work my way up to a certain level of that job so that then I can meet somebody great, pool our money together, get married, maybe
And
have a kid.
become a supporting actor in your own narrative.
Exactly. Yeah. Precisely. But the failure, to bring it back to the point of your podcast, and is not being fluid, not having that. This would be a nice thing to achieve, but I trust that life has a whole other plan for me, and I'm open and willing to seeing what that is. And when you're not open, then you have tunnel vision and you're only marching towards this status quo that you impose upon yourself, as opposed to saying, I'm just going to live joyously.
So how did you start to question the rock solid goals and expectations, and how did you transform that into a more fluid understanding, and how did you find that balance?
I love this question. Perfect. So that relationship that I described earlier of, yes, I got married at 28, and yes, I did have my house at 30, and yay me, ended up resulting in divorce. So that part of the journey, I would say, was me being 44, 45 years old, stuck in this marriage in stagnation. We couldn't figure out how to make it work together, and we couldn't figure out how to live apart. So we just kind of spiraled around in stagnation. And then finally it was, okay, you know what? I have to take a chance here. I have to explore the unknown. I don't know what life is like without this man, and he doesn't know what life is without me. It feels like we're cutting off a limb, but the uncertain future became less scary than the certain present. Ooh, so the present was that of complete stagnation, professionally, emotionally. I wasn't growing at all. I had hit a fork in my road, and I wasn't taking, like Yogi Berra says, you come to a fork in a road, take it. I didn't take it. I sat there, put up a campsite and chilled out and made some cocktails and hung out right smack in the fork of the road for years. But then when I finally reached my breaking point with that and said, you know what, I can't, I'm having a birthday, I'm turning like 44 years old. Like this is trains leaving the station. This is ridiculous. I can't stay like this anymore. That's when I asked myself, Lisa, if you're in this same situation in a year from now, what do you think about that? And I couldn't do it. And so I said, that uncertain future is less daunting than the idea of staying exactly where I am a year from now. Mm-hmm. And that's when I had a conversation with my ex-husband, and we sat down, and unfortunately he just couldn't have any kind of vision for how we can work out together. And that was when, we made that really tough decision to divorce. And when I got divorced, it was total land of uncertainty. I mean, this is a reinvention talk about midlife reinvention. And this is why I tell the younger people, I say, listen, time you cannot get back. And if you're listening to this, here I am, 49 years old, right? Have this awesome business, about to embark on yet another reinvention in my life, which is moving out of Miami into a new area of Florida, Sarasota. I said, you know what? I have to keep moving forward. I have to make a commitment to myself in life that I have to just change the paradigm for how I'm looking at my life. I have to look at it more as this blessed journey that has many twists and turns and lessons along the way, and beautiful people who come in maybe for a few months, a few years, a decade, 2 decades, and they all play a role, and I play a role with them as well. And it's just a much more peaceful, purposeful way of looking at life. And to answer your question about goals and having that balance of, you know, how much is it faith and flighty and, hey, wherever I go, let me blow like a feather in the wind, versus, no, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So I'll break it down like this. I'll say 2 months ago, it was May. I was sitting on my balcony enjoying listening to a U2 concert on YouTube with my now boyfriend, and all was well, and we were in quarantine, and we're making cocktails, frosty nice ones, and drinking them on my balcony, having a little terrace party, quarantining
nice.
together, right? Super
Yeah.
nice, ordering food, rocking that whole world, right? Fast forward a month from there, I'm realizing that I need to get rid of the car that I had for 17 years. Now, this was a car, I had this car forever since, you know, car was in New Jersey. It lived part of that life that I had up there with my ex-husband. I drove it down to Miami. I am the type of person that I give inanimate objects names and a soul. So the car's name was Klaus.
Not that weird. I do the same thing.
Right? So his name was Klaus, little
Cherry.
German red thing, right? And the significance of this is I'm sitting in this car and I'm looking at it at a red light, and I'm feeling like I really need to get a new car. The inside, you know, cloth is falling off. It's just time, right? It's feeling of like, Lisa, this is time. Klausy, you love Klausy, right? You've had him forever, but girl. And I wrestled with, do I just put money in him and restore him and be that lady that has like the old retro BMW? Or am I going to just not and just part ways with this car and bless it and move on? So I'm sitting now in this car, and all of a sudden I just get this impulse. Like, you gotta go. You gotta move on. You gotta get this car. I rope in the stepfather. We start looking online at cars. Lo and behold, he finds me a few amazing deals. I find the car that I have now. Point is, from that day of sitting on the balcony to the time that I was driving off with a new, what do I have? A 2017 530 series now, a 5 series. I upgraded. I couldn't pass up this deal, but it was like 2 weeks. So from the point of when you get that impulse of now is the time, that inspired impulse, to the time you actually do it, it's all on faith. That's where that little voice comes in and says, okay, now, because I was wrestling for months and months and months about this car. But there was something about that particular moment in my life. I don't know if it was COVID. I don't know, you know, COVID-19, the whole way of the world, and how it went and what have you. But I knew that was the time, and I listened to my inner guidance, and my inner guidance said, Lisa, you need a new car, and now is the time to do it.
How do you have the strength to listen to an impulse and follow it through and not to ignore it as a flight of fancy or a passing thought? Like, how do you give the right impulses the right weight that drive change?
And
can
I add to that question is, how does it feel? How does it feel inside of you?
Okay, so this is a fantastic conversation that I love to have. So one of the things that I am trained in is energy leadership. So I basically know how to read vibe. I know how to read vibe in myself. I know how to shift energy in me and others. That said, in order to do this, and I never knew I had the ability to do this before, but I had this ability to really be in myself in such a way where I can hear that voice. And it's happened throughout my life as a little girl all the way up until adulthood. And it never steered me wrong. I just never named it, and I never was aware of how profound it was in me. And I've used this in my 20s when it came down to send your resume here, Lisa. You know, call this person, Lisa. They have a job for you. And it's a whisper in I describe it as divinity speaking through me, to me, as me. So it's a divine voice that's in my own voice, in my head. I feel it in my chest. I feel it in the gut and the pit knowing of my soul, that I know that out of all the months and times that went by that you said, yeah, I really need a new car. Yeah, I'm going to get to that. Yeah, that this is the moment to strike. This is the moment that wild horses cannot keep you from this decision. And it happened many times in my life, namely the time when I was 39 years old. I was standing in the center hall of my second story of my home with my husband. And we had the conversation of, we're selling this house. And he said to me, when we sell this house, I'm going to move to San Diego. And I thought, okay, so you go to San Diego first, and then what? I come out later with the dog and our belongings, or what do we do? Put it in storage. And he says, no, I'm just going to go to San Diego and I'm going to go alone. And that's when it occurred to me that this man could not even communicate that he wanted to separate. And now I'm sitting there like, well, my whole world is crumbling. I have no home, and I have all this stuff, and I have a dog. And like, where am I going to go? Nobody cares about me. And that's when I had this rush come over me of panic almost.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I had this wherewithal to take a breath, and I felt my heart beating in my throat. And that's when this divine voice again came to me and said, Lisa, just go to Miami. You'll be happy there. And as it came to me through my soul and through my lips and out my mouth, I said, okay, I'll go to Miami. I'll be happy there. He said, Miami. I said, yeah, like I always said I wanted to live by the beach. I always wanted to live where it was warm. You're going to San Diego. So don't I get to live where it's warm? Don't I get to do what I want to do and live at the beach? And, you know, it was a very genuine, divine guidance. And I went, and 90 days later from that conversation on that center hall, I was in Miami, Florida with my toes in the sand, moving, you know, my furniture, setting up my place, and living this new life that would bring me a decade of, you know, true exploration of myself and a return to the truth of myself, so that that divine voice can get louder, much more certain, so that I can call upon it now. I don't just idly wait until I'm in times of trouble for like, please bring me the voice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in communion with that voice every day, throughout the day now. And I had it just this past weekend. I went to Sarasota. I decided I wanted to move. So that was the other thing. So it was a car first. It starts, you know, the momentum of this force that pulls us forward for our benefit. So it was like, okay, universe is God, whatever. It's like, all right, girl, now you're going to get a car. Okay. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to get my car. And I got my car, and now I'm home with my car. And I parked my car, and I'm like, this car doesn't look right in this place. I have to move from here. I can't be here anymore. This is, I started feeling like I was a butterfly in a cocoon, and I was like stretching and my wings and awful and achy and horrible. And that's when, sure enough, the universe then says, okay, now you're going to have a discussion with your boyfriend, and you're going to have a very heartfelt discussion. And it led to this path of, you know, where are we now, and what are we doing, and what do I truly want to live like?
Let's take a quick break. Do you want to bring the 2020 perspective insights to your team, community group, or company? This season, we're opening the door to talk with you about your failures and engage in a dialogue with the community that matters to you.
For this season only, we're running a special offer called the Failure to Findings Talk, where we can help you learn from failure and build a culture around being a successful failure.
Reach out to us at hello@the2020perspective.com and let us know you're interested in the Failure to Findings Talk. Again, that's hello@the2020perspective.com.
Let's fail out loud together. And now back to the failure.
Do you ever second guess that voice? Because, I mean, when I look at decisions that could lead to failure or went through failure, there's that little voice giving me the contrary and saying, no, that's a bad idea. Or you're going to have buyer's remorse if you make that choice.
Like the devil and angel on your
Yeah.
shoulder,
Yeah,
and
for
you're
sure.
going back and forth.
Because I don't always listen to devil. Sometimes I listen to
Yeah,
angel. Sometimes I
of
listen to devil.
course. Well, you know, I look at it this way, like, to me, a decision is about a commitment. So I don't look at it as, I'm going to make this decision, and oh my God, what if it goes wrong? And what if it goes this way? And what if this? And what if that? I used to do that. But now what I do and what I've learned is just commit. Just commit to whatever. Go full on. Like, burn the ships. There is no option. Just do it.
Yeah.
Right? And the universe will acquiesce to you. So if you make a decision and you say, I am going in this direction, and there is no such thing as failure here. Failure is not an option here, right? Then the universe will hear that, and will rise to it for you. And then you'll say, how easy is it that I get the impulse? I just decided I was going to move. And there will be no failure at it, because to me, it's like I'm called there by something higher. So it may appear as failure, but it always is to serve you. It's always to serve you. Even the things that appear as failure, it's
Sure.
to,
It's an
to
iteration
bring,
to where you want to
absolutely,
be or where you envision
absolutely.
yourself.
And
Yeah.
when you realize this, then you enter into new phases of life very boldly and with faith that nothing can hurt me. Nothing can hurt me. I'm just going here. I'm putting my attention here. And where attention goes, energy flows. So if you focus on the what's wanted as opposed to what you're afraid of, then the what's wanted can come to be and can manifest. And a lot of the suffering and misery that people find themselves in relationships is when they are trying to make the other person see things the way they want them to see them, as opposed to accepting that we had a really successful relationship to that point, and I couldn't continue growing if I remained in that point. And all trends in life were pushing me out of that place. When I said earlier, I've been down this rodeo before, so I learned some things, right? So the past was this: I wasted 4.5 years in relationship inertia with my ex-husband, waiting for him to make a decision about the fate of our marriage. So we were separated. So I went to live in Miami. He followed suit a few months after I moved there. And it's almost like a part 2 to this. It's almost like a repeated pattern. Now, if I didn't fail forward, I would see the same pattern and I would do the same behaviors again. But because I did fail forward, and I did go through with getting divorced, and I did proceed to revamp my life and create this new business, and based on my own healing journey, and I beat codependency. And the reason why I can make decisions the way I do for myself now is because I'm no longer codependent. I look at life as just one big journey, and some people are going to come hang with you for mile marker 80 to mile marker 500, and some of them are going to hang with you the whole time.
So since then, you've learned to meander and be fluid with what life brings you and who's in your life. So thinking about your next chapter and this future, like, what if you move to this new place and it's like a shit show and you hate it, like how do you move forward with this new chapter?
Your job is to take inspired action. However, the nitty-gritty and the way by which, sometimes it's just better to delegate that to the divine. And I'll give you an example. I could have very easily gotten all wadded up in, where am I going to live? And is it going to have this? And it has to have that. And I don't know if I'm going to find it. And it's COVID. And am I going to even see a place? They're not even going to let me tour it. And and go down that rabbit hole. Or I can stand firmly in faith and say, if I'm being called to move to Sarasota, then that means that there's a perfect house for me in Sarasota, a perfect place for me to live in Sarasota. And so what do I get to ask for? So now this is where I get to sit down and say, well, it needs to be pet friendly, and it needs to have 2 bedrooms because I want people to come and stay with me. And it needs to have this type of square footage, and I want this type of natural light, and I want dual sinks in my bathroom, and I want this, and I want all of the little wanties, and I get to play and have fun in it. I mean, these are the things that delight you, and you start to live in that space of creation. And
you're manifesting this.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You're deliberately creating your life with knowing that the manifestation is imminent. And so it's very important to be quiet and walk in nature. That's another thing I recommend people if you want like a how. Okay, so number 1, write, journal, ask yourself, what is my ideal life? Get that on paper. There's a lot of power when you're writing things of manifestation, of the power of the written word. The second thing, go for walks alone, no phone, no nothing. Maybe you can listen to some nice uplifting music in your earbuds, but walk in nature, go where it's a trail, go where there's water. You'll get clarity on things. You'll tone down the noise. You'll tone down that talk in your head. And then in the deepest pits of your soul, you'll hear that powerful voice that's often quiet in the corner, but has so much to say.
Do a lot of thinking on my walks
Snaps.
with Richard, that's for sure.
And I take
There's
walks with
something
Roman
to
noodles.
it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
there's
Those two
something to
things,
it.
those two things are really, the basic of getting into yourself and being your own truest, best listener, best friend. You just get into that habit of asking, what do I do? What should I do here? And, affirmations, also powerful. And I'm not talking about like these bullshit affirmations that you find that they don't ring true to you. It feels like you're forcing yourself to believe a big bag of bullshit. I'm not saying that. I'm saying affirmations that meet you right where you are. So I'll give you an example. I am a self-made multimillionaire. That's going to make you wobbly. That's going to make you wobbly. If you can't say I'm a self-made multimillionaire sitting in your kitchen eating ramen, wondering how you're going to make rent. That affirmation is only going to flare up and trigger you even more into lack and scarcity.
Unhealthy affirmation.
Right. But instead, if that is your desire, you can say something like, I am open and ready to receive the path to my millions. I am willing to walk the path to abundance, and I already am abundant. And look how do I show that I'm abundant? Well, I have roof over my head, and look what happens when I turn on the faucet. Look at all this water. Water. There are people on earth, on this planet, that have to walk miles to get water, and look at me in my little apartment. I flick the switch and water. And not just here, but in that room, and in that room over there too. Water everywhere I go. So you start to get into this mindset of abundance that you're like, my God, I already am abundant. I'm already abundant.
I like what you're saying about this, and it makes me think of a couple things. One is I've always said, well, not always, but in more recent times, that everyone in your life is there to bring you almost like a message. And like you said, you might be on this journey with them for 10 years, you might be on this journey for 2 minutes. But I really like what you said about the scarcity and abundance mindset. This is a real thing. And in my head, like when I visualize having this mindset of abundance, you're actually able to like expand the way that you see the world and like solve problems, and you come up with more options to like navigating through life. Whereas when you have this scarcity of like, oh, I don't have my millions, I don't have the job that I want, I don't have the partner, like visually I look at it as like a sponge being like squeezed to get every ounce of water out of it. And it's like you actually see the world like that too, and you can't absorb anything because you're being squeezed so much that you can't even see anything in front of you that could be an opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to money mindset and abundance, and and look, abundance, scarcity, it trickles into relationships as well. It trickles into the dating world, so when I coach people, a lot of people are dating from a position of scarcity, and then and shifting them into that place of abundance is the fun work that I get to do with people, because the game changes. But when you accept that you don't have it now, and you say, oh, I'm excited for the coming of this, I'm excited for the arrival of this, and I could be joyously looking through a magazine at the furniture that I'm going to put into this house that I have yet to get, right? and be with a glass of wine or Prosecco, whatever I'm in the mood for, a nice thing of Herradura tequila with lime, and drinking it and sipping it, and like, oh, this is going to be a nice comfy couch, and I can imagine watching some Netflix to this, and look at me sitting on this couch. That is important, really. Putting yourself in the feeling of what it is that you want speeds up its arrival. So I always tell girls, listen, guys, anybody, you want to manifest love in your life, honey, go to CVS and buy them a toothbrush, put that thing up on your dresser and on your, your cabinetry or whatever. Seriously, start making them have
Clear out a drawer.
Clear out a drawer, space in your closet, put a t-shirt in there, talk to the t-shirt. I tell girls, listen, when you're single, look at your man's toothbrush and in your mind, brush your teeth the whole time you're brushing your teeth and be like, baby, you're on your way to me. I can't wait. Oh my God, we're going to have such a good time together. You and me, you're going to brush your teeth. We're going to get ready. We're going to go out and have brunch. It's going to be amazing. Put towels together for him, for her, set it all up as if it is happening.
So you told me this a while ago, and it's so funny because I'm on Instagram a whole bunch. It's research for business. And I don't know why, but all of a sudden I keep getting recommended people to follow, and it's all these wedding gown accounts. Like,
Wow.
no idea why I keep getting wedding
It's a
gown
sign.
accounts. So before like talking to you, Lisa, I probably would have been like, oh, I can't look at that, it's bad luck. And now I'm like, fuck that noise. I'm looking at all the wedding gowns. I'm just looking at it.
Hell
I'm like,
yeah,
what do I
girl.
like? I like that style, and I'm just having fun with it.
Yep.
Because
No
it's just
attachment to it, just for
no
fun.
attachment. It's
Mhm.
fun.
Have fun with it.
And I like to tell myself exactly what you said. Like, if that's what I want, it's obviously popping up. Like, I don't know why. I'm just gonna say it's coming. It's coming. It might not be tomorrow, but it's coming to me.
It
That's what I
100% is, and I'll tell you why, and I'm hopeful this brings you something to delight in. The reason why you are seeing that in your feed is because you are a vibrational match to it. Now, this is where it gets weird.
I'm ready.
The version of you who is sitting on this phone with me is vibing, podcaster, talking to fun people, getting information. The version of you who is planning her wedding is the one who is getting the feed of the wedding pictures and the things of the bridal gowns in your feed. So
Totally.
that vibration exists in you because there is a version of you who on another physical plane is planning that wedding.
You're invited.
I'm
getting a front row spot,
I'm
girl.
100% going. I'm gonna be the first on the dance floor. Count on me.
So I'm really dug into that metaphor, that vibration thing, because in a prior life I was a musician, and vibrations, they have all these different frequencies that are captured in one tone, and you are one person made of a lot of different vibrations and a lot of different identities and a lot of different things captured together. But what I think is really powerful about this conversation is, no matter whether it's failure or success, no matter what comes at you, if you approach it with this kind of open, positive mindset, you add that vibration to your own music, and it starts becoming part of you. And maybe it's just a very small part of you, but being open to it, it's now a part of you, and you can then grow with it. You can resonate with more other things in that frequency, and you can find more opportunities. Life move forward. You're not strung out and like held back by the fear.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm digging it.
Perfectly stated. It's this, hey, whatever comes, let it come. Whatever goes, let it go.
Yeah. Where can your people find you, and how do you work with people?
Delicious. Okay. I love this part of the chat. My love language is gifts. So I have many gifts on my website. You can get audio downloads about different relationship issues. There are blogs to read. You can even do a free LoveLife assessment. And that could also include love of self. So you can do a little life assessment. There's a form there, and I read through them and I give you answers to your questions directly. So that is all over on lovequestcoaching.com. That's like my big hub of my website and all my goodies, lovequestcoaching.com. And then I am at Lisa the Love Coach on Instagram, which is
where Alicia spends most of her time.
Right. Yes. We hang out there.
Yeah.
And then I also have a YouTube channel with over, I'd say by now, about 700 videos dating back to 2014. So my whole little journey, you can find it, you can find parts of Lisa from Lisa before, going through all my stuff. And then the emergence of this me now, and who knows what the future is going to be. My content's going to be banging in the next 3 months because of new surroundings, new place to live, new beach to go to. It's just going to be awesome. So I encourage anybody, Google my name, Lisa Concepcion. I contribute a lot to Elite Daily, Bustle, Business Insider. I've done stuff with just, different sites. You'll see articles where I'm quoted and, often as an expert contributor. So I'm very searchable, findable. And I look forward to anybody finds me. I'm like, you want to find me on Instagram, honey? I'm there. You want to find me on YouTube? Got me. Want to find me on Facebook? I'm also on Facebook. You just search Lisa Concepcion. You can find me there as well.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sitting down and
Thank you
chatting with
guys.
us.
you.
Thank you both. This was lovely.
This was fun. Dan and I both had such a blast. A, talking to Lisa, and then B, re-listening to our conversation with Lisa because she is such a character. And
Oh my goodness, yeah.
we had to even cut out, we talked for over an hour with her, but obviously we cut it down and we had to take a lot of pieces out. But overall, the story itself or just the conversation was such a fun time to talk to her. She's so energetic and has really put herself fully into the work that she does because she's been there and experienced it, and she can put this spin on it to talk about it in a way that's like very human. How like love and the struggles and the, things that we do in our life, it's all just a journey, and she can make it really positive and kind of fun and uplifting. It really changes my perspective on how I look at how I'm dating and like living my life.
There's not a lot of opportunities in my life I sit down and have a crunchy conversation. And by crunchy, I mean like really in touch with abstract concepts and these ideas of like self and value and faith and kind of like mysticism. Like that's just not part of my daily life. And, when I dive into these conversations, it feels a little bit like old clothes of like other lifetimes I feel like I've lived and had those conversations a lot more. And it feels good, but it feels better afterwards. It's that kind of thing where you have to like really chew on it and simmer on it. And thinking about failure that's kind of like a broader metaphor of failure, is when you go through it, it sucks. But as you chew on it and you swallow it and you learn from it, it tastes better in a way. It still has that bitter aftertaste, but there's still something really magical about it because it leads you on to your next chapter, your next experience, or the next person, or, and really trusting that the next thing is going to happen. That's really what faith is to me, is that there's a next. There's always a next. Yeah. And failure is never the end per se. It's never the ultimate end. I mean, unless you like die doing it, but it's just not the end. There's always something next. There's always something more, and the world will provide. You just need to recognize that we need to move forward.
Yes, I really like her way of manifesting things. And when I did work with Lisa, and what, she doesn't coach you really around like how to talk to someone on a date, because I feel like we interview people, or we have conversations with tons of people, I can talk to people. It's more about self-love and the root of what she talks about, and like what she kind of like coaches you on manifesting is really to get down to the root of what you want and understand what is blocking you, what mental, scarcity mindset, we talked about that, what is kind of like sucking your thoughts and brains into a place of lack. And so I do think that what she coaches you on, or what you work with her, whatever coach, all of that stuff comes from the same place, whether it's love or business or whatever. The root of what, you're like trying to, move past or gain or bring into your life is usually all rooted in like the same thing. And that was a big eye opener for me. And so I love her way of like, her step-by-step approach that she shared with us of how you can just like manifest what you want and how you can dig deep to figure out what is the root of what you're wanting.
I like the idea of manifesting what you want because it recognizes that there's something next. And I loved the confidence. That's something that I think is really special about the conversation, is it imbues a confidence in what you're doing, and that things are going to be okay, and it's normal, and we're going to be fine, and you're going to learn something. If you're open and willing, that confidence will be there. And I think that confidence is the tipping point for success. And eventually, you just keep applying that confidence, and then boom, that failure turns into a success.
Boom!
Boom!
Thanks to No BS Brass Band for the Bang & Show music. Check them out at nobsbrass.com.
And subscribe on your favorite podcast player, or follow us on Facebook to get the newest failures delivered right to your ears. And may your failures be spectacular.